Oh, hello. I guess get this closed. I'm actually going to be doing a tour today of Columbus Circle. May not be as fancy as some of the other squares and intersections I've done, but this one's pretty important. You're going to learn a ton about it. So before we start, real quick, go ahead and like the thing, do the little thumbs up. Also subscribe. It takes a quick click. It'll take you 2 seconds. And also please check out the Patreon. That helps a ton. Helps fund these things. But that being said, we're going to do a little walk, quick one around Columbus Circle. Stewie, how are you feeling?
Feeling hot but good.
Yeah, it's a little warm. It's not too bad. There have been warmer days this summer, but I think we're ready to pretty much start. I don't know. Should we start this thing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hell. Oh, and before I start walking, real quick, I'll explain what this is. This is a globe sculpture that was created actually for the Trump International Hotel and Tower, which I'll talk about a little later. But it's meant to evoke the Unisphere in Flushing, Queens, which is where Donald Trump is from, actually, believe it or not. We'll talk about that a little later. We're walking here around Columbus Circle. Check it out, you can see behind me. This is the intersection of 8th Avenue and Broadway here at the southwest corner of Central Park. It's called Columbus Circle because of that statue there in the middle. And we're going to walk around this whole thing and talk about it. It's a very important intersection, actually. Here's where 8th Avenue continues up the west side of Central Park, creating Central Park West, one of the ritziest streets in all of New York. It's actually one of those places where if you tell someone, oh yeah, I live on Central Park West, they'll look at you and be like, oh, you think you're better than me? So we're going to walk across here, and you're going to see a bunch of things here, but also this is Broadway. Broadway continuing up this way, going north into the Upper West Side, which I talked about in my Upper West Side video. Oh, watch it. Okay, so we're walking around Columbus Circle now. Gotta be careful for the bikers, man. They'll run you over. Everyone always thinks it's like taxi drivers and stuff, they're the most dangerous people in New York. It's the bikers. They don't follow any rules. You see people blow through red lights, they go against the traffic on one-ways. Always look both ways before crossing any street, even if it's a one-way street. Let's go, we can make this. All right, so we're walking around Columbus Circle. I'm walking right now next to the Deutsche Bank Center. Yeah, that's right. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich lerne gern Deutsch. Ich bin Schauspieler und Comedian und tour guide.
Hey guys.
All right, anyways, this is the Deutsche Bank Center. It used to be called the Time Warner Center up until recently. It's this giant, complex, 2 750-foot towers, home to like CNN offices and a big old shopping mall right here actually as well. But more interesting is what used to be here. It was actually, so in 1956, a building called the New York Coliseum was built right here actually to be the main kind of convention center of New York. I was supposed to harken back to like the Roman times, whatever. It was Robert Moses' idea. He was a pretty pompous guy, but it was kind of like the convention center in New York. It replaced the Grand Central Palace, which was kind of the main convention center before, and it was the predecessor to the Javits Center. When the Javits Center was opened in the 80s, this one kind of fell into disrepair, and they didn't really need it anymore, and they were going to replace it with stuff. One of the things that they proposed replacing it with was a giant 70-story building that was actually protested against by people like Jackie Onassis because they didn't want to block the sunlight from the park. The guy who was kind of behind one of those things was named Moshe Safdie. You may not recognize the name Safdie, but the Safdie brothers are relatives of his. They're two very famous directors, actually. They made the movie Uncut Gems. You guys ever seen that movie? Pretty good. All right. So if you look to my left there, Stewie, you'll see why they call it Columbus Circle. We'll be popping in there here in a second. Another thing about the Time Warner, well, it used to be called the Time Warner Center, now it's called the Deutsche Bank Center. This is where the CNN offices are. Yeah, CNN. So we're walking around the square. It's a nice little stroll. How you doing, Stewie?
Doing good.
Pretty good, huh? Down here you can see 8th Avenue. There you go, 8th Avenue. We'll cross here. So over here too, to the north, is Central Park. I'll talk about that here in a second. But all this is due to the grid plan. I've talked about the grid plan probably every single video. I've told you this before, but there are a few facts in New York that you have to know if you know anything about New York. One of them is that there was a grid implemented in the year 1811, and that's when the streets of New York were gridded off. So the streets which go east to west, start at First Street, go to the 200s at the north end of the island, The avenues which go north-south start at 1st Avenue in the east, go to 12th Avenue in the west. But this is very important because it gave New York kind of its, you know, its shape and its makeup. And it was done in 1811, way before, you know, the island was even populated, so it's very important. But this is a result of it. I'll talk about that in a second. Behind me is the Museum of Art and Design, a little art museum. They like design stuff, like, for example, there's like doll houses and all kinds of cool things that are designed in an interesting way. It dates back to the 1950s, but it's been here since, I believe, 2008. It's a pretty cool building here. So we'll keep walking here. So I was saying that grid, right? So the grid, the original plan of the grid, Broadway kind of ended in the middle of the island, ended further south. It was going to end at like 23rd Street. We talked about this kind of in the Madison Square video. But they decided to continue it and connect it to Bloomingdale Road, which Bloomingdale Road would pretty much be 8th Avenue up here going up the west side. It used to, I'm sorry, not 8th Avenue, Broadway here going up the west side. And it connected, it was like the only connection up to what was then like North Manhattan. So they connected Bloomingdale Road to Broadway by adding this like diagonal thing, right? And that's how all the squares are created. So we're walking. Oh, here, let me show you something too. You can see this kind of a little bit from here. Not a good angle, it's technically not Columbus Circle, but it's important. Pretty cool building. See that building with all the like little bars there on the crossbars on the side? That's the Hearst building. William Randolph Hearst. He wasn't there, he built the base of it. We talked about this on the Billionaires Row video. Billionaires Row, sick plug, baby. Watch all these videos, for the love of God. I'll stop plugging them if you would just watch them all. But William Randolph Hearst, newspaper guy, we'll talk about him in a bit as well. Home to like Entertainment Weekly, Good Housekeeping, those newspapers and magazines. All right, so we're crossing here. Here's Broadway, which, by the way, I don't know if you recognize this, Stewie, but this is where the Marshmallow Man popped out. Ah, in Ghostbusters. Ah, the Marshmallow Man. For those of you guys who are under 25 years old, it's the Marshmallow Man, not Marshmallow, the DJ or whatever he does, Lord knows. All right, starting to get bright there, Stewie. Check it out here to the left. You can still see Columbus Circle here. Pretty nice. So we're gonna cross in, head into the actual circle. Not a very long tour. We're walking around. It's a nice, you know, laid back walk. But I was telling you that the grid plan is one of the reasons responsible for this. Now keep in mind, when the park opened in 1858, there was nothing out here. That's 1858. We've talked about some of the other squares already and told you how, like, for example, Union Square was finished in the 1830s, 1840s for Madison Square. Times Square didn't really take off until the the early 1900s, late 1800s. So it's taken a little time. Here, it took a time as well. So in 1858, when they opened Central Park, they named it Central Park, even though it wasn't central, it was way outside the city. Back then, if you were gonna make a trip to Central Park, you had to like pack a lunch and a dinner and get in the carriage and take an hour-and-a-half trip. It was a total mess. But today, it's centrally located, very fancy area, living around the park. So I say that all to say that back then, there wasn't a whole lot out here. So we're gonna cross, and you can see the statue there behind me. That's good old Christopher Columbus. Ever heard of him? He discovered America, right? He discovered the landmass inhabited by hundreds of millions of people already. Anyway, this was put here in 1892 to celebrate 400 years since he discovered America. Pretty cool statue designed by Gaetano Russo, but this is why it's called Columbus Circle. This was put here in 1892, which is when it got the name Columbus Circle. In fact, the original designers of the park, Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux, had the idea of creating like a little circle, a little roundabout here at the southwest corner. So this didn't really come till later. It didn't become Columbus Circle till later. So you can see on the statue, it's kind of cool. You have these 3 Roman galleys, each supposed to represent one of his ships. The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. Is that right? I think so. So those are all there representing those. Also too, in 2012, it's kind of cool. They made this art installation around it. It was called, like, I think it was called Rediscovering Columbus or something. It was by a guy named Tatsunishi. And what they did was they made these stairs, and you could go up and just like look at the statue from inside a like living room, like a recreated living room. It was pretty cool. So we're walking around here. You can see the Deutsche Bank Center. Sorry, the Deutsche Bank Center, not the Time Warner Center. They pay good money to put their name on the thing, so who am I to take that away from them? But also too, it's kind of like a fancy shopping mall. They got like let's see, the restaurant's Masa, one of the most expensive restaurants in New York City. It's like $600 a person to eat there. Per se, I think it's like $400 a person to eat there. Not cheap, I guess. If you're gonna go, you might as well like order the chicken tenders or something. Maybe order off the kids menu. I don't know. But if you are looking to go eat there and you can afford eating there very easily, it's a good time to mention my Patreon. Check it out and help me out. It'd be great. Also, too, home to jazz at Lincoln Center. Wynton Marsalis, very famous trumpet player, is the actual creative director there. In case you don't know, Wynton Marsalis, he was the first person to win the Grammys in classical and jazz music in the same year. He also won the Pulitzer Prize for music for his work, Blood on the Fields, like 2.5 hour long thing, kind of protesting slavery. Interesting fact, I don't know if you guys know, Kendrick Lamar, also a Pulitzer Prize winner for music. Kind of interesting. And the Pulitzer Prize, interesting fact, this will tie everything back together. The Pulitzer Prize was created by Joseph Pulitzer, a Hungarian immigrant who came here, worked his butt off. He served in the Civil War, and he actually eventually started and created the New York World newspaper, which competed with William Randolph Hearst. Oh, and they kind of battled each other in the late 1800s for, for dominance in newspapers. And they created yellow journalism, which was kind of like, throwing barbs at each other and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about that in a second because they were big time behind the Spanish-American War, which is very important. So Joseph Pulitzer, the Pulitzer Prize. He also helped fund the pedestal to the Statue of Liberty, which I've talked about in videos before. I talked about the Statue of Liberty in a video. You should look at that one because you may not know everything about the Statue of Liberty. But that's over there, jazz at Lincoln Center. It's over here based at the Deutsche Bank Center, not the Time Warner Center, formerly known as the Time Warner Center. Oh, I was gonna say, oh yeah, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel is also here, very fancy, but you can go up there and like the bar or whatever and get a pretty good view of the park. Mandarin Oriental, I think the rooms are like $1,000 a night. Not cheap, man. Welcome to New York. We're also next to Central Park, so not exactly the cheapest part of New York City. All right, let's walk around. We're gonna cross here. We'll be done very soon. You can also see these massive buildings. These are all Billionaires Row. Talked about that already, but this right here is 220 Central Park South, famous for being home to the most expensive apartment ever sold in New York, to Ken Griffin, a hedge fund guy, of course, for $238 million. $238 million for an apartment. Makes me want to cry just saying that. I should definitely send him my Patreon stuff, huh? And here you can see 59th Street. We're facing 59th Street. This is the southern end of Central Park. Central Park goes from 59th Street all the way to 110th Street in the north. And then it goes from 8th Avenue here on the west side to 5th Avenue in the east. But you could see that on my Central Park video. Let's cross. Also too, very interesting here at Columbus Circle was a very famous mob murder. In 1971, Joe Colombo was gunned down here. They believe he was gunned down by the commission, I guess. The five families kind of put a hit on him. He was the head of the Colombo crime family, but they believe that he was gunned down because he was getting too much publicity. He was here speaking at an Italian-American Unity Day, and he was very public and out in the open with the mob and mob stuff. In fact, it was his family that kind of consulted the production of The Godfather. When they were creating The Godfather, they just thought he was too out in the open, kind of airing all their dirty laundry. So he was murdered out here, just shot in broad daylight. He actually was in a coma for years after that, but he ended up dying. Pretty nuts. Now you can see behind me here, this right here is the USS Maine monument. This is pretty cool. We're at the southwest corner of Central Park. I know my cardinal directions, don't you worry. This is the southwest corner of Central Park. You can see the USS Maine monument. Let's keep going. So here you can start seeing the USS Maine monument, sculpted by Attilio Piccarilli, who actually sculpted a couple of things. He sculpted the Firefighters Memorial up in the Upper West Side, which I covered in my Upper West Side video. I already plugged that. You watch it. And also, too, the bust of Christopher Columbus. Oh, go figure. In the Bronx, Arthur Avenue, the Little Italy up in the Bronx. The real Little Italy, they say. So this is all the USS Maine monument, meant to commemorate the USS Maine, which sunk off the coast of Cuba in 1898 and precipitated the Spanish-American War. Now people forget that the Spanish-American War came kind of as a result of the Cuban move for independence. They were trying to fight the Spanish over there. There was the 10 Years' War started in 1868, and they were pushing for independence from Spain. The U.S. was being pushed to kind of help out, but they kind of kept their distance, and some people wanted to get in, especially the people with money. They wanted to get in and take advantage of the sugar and stuff like that. The U.S. was the biggest importer of sugar, of Cuban sugar. So anyways, there was a big push to get the U.S. involved, et cetera, but it wasn't until 1898 with the USS Maine mysteriously exploding and sinking off the coast of Cuba that the U.S. finally got into it. And part of the reason was because of Joseph Pulitzer and because of William Randolph Hearst. They really kind of just started beating the drum for war. The U.S. went in. War lasted like 16 weeks, super fast. And then the U.S. got the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Guam from that war. And also, too, the Cuba became a U.S. protectorate. So kind of interesting, all that happened. And this is to commemorate the sinking of the Maine. In fact, they say some of the metal from the actual ship was used for this thing. So actually, too, that's a Columbia up there with the little frond of victory, and then there's two horses. I forget what they're called. I think they're called, what are they called? Oh, they're called hippocampi. That's right, the horses that are part fish, part horses are called hippocampi. All right, let's keep on moving here. Oh, and also, too, we're walking by what's called the Merchant's Gate. There are 20 principal entrances to Central Park, and each one of them was given a different name to commemorate a different type of citizen that was around, and that's meant to be for the park, because one of the things about Central Park was that it was built to kind of democratize leisure. It was built for everyone, not just the rich. So they put all these different people like merchants, children, scholars, all kinds of people who are supposed to use the park. This is in 1858, so this was a big deal when this happened, because before then, parks were like converted grounds of the aristocracy. It wasn't for, it wasn't for just the poor, just the rich, it was mostly for the rich. So anyways, when that happened, they gave these different names, whatever, to the gates to make it seem more open, more democratized. In fact, if you go to the park, you go to like the nicest parts of the park, you can't ride your horses or carriages through there, you gotta walk. So poor and rich alike have to go through the Central Park Mall, huh? Look at that, kinda cool. Central Park, I covered it in a different video. You should watch that one, because that's a whole nother thing. There's a lot of stuff on that.
Hi guys, want to get a ride?
And now we're making it to the other side. We're making it to 8th Avenue here, AKA Central Park West, which, by the way, is, like I said, the ritziest street in New York. And here you have Trump International Hotel, 1 Central Park West, also called 1 Central Park West because a lot of the condo owners there pushed to have that be part of the name because they didn't want to be called the Trump International Hotel and Tower anymore. But a very fancy building. You may recognize it from the movie Tower Heist. This is a building from Tower Heist. Also, you may recognize it from Borat, when Borat takes a crap right next to the globe over there. But a lot of protests happen right here, as they do also in front of his building on 5th Avenue. I don't know if you knew this, but Donald Trump was actually the President of the United States for a few years. I don't know, that's a whole nother video. But anyways, we got Central Park West all the way up here. Maybe one day I'll do a video of Central Park West, huh? But really cool area. This is all Columbus Circle. A lot of history here. Very pretty and a very important kind of center. You can see here all the tall buildings here of what they call Billionaires Row. Very, very fancy area here. Lots of celebs if you like to go celeb watching. Here's a one right here. That's 15 Central Park West. That was actually just recently built in like the early 2000s. But let's see, I don't know, like Denzel Washington, Sting. I think Lloyd Blankfein, the former head of Goldman Sachs. A lot of people live there. I'm digressing. Let's get this view here. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Oh, I almost forgot. The Jazz at Lincoln Center also has the Jazz Hall of Fame over there, too. You can go see, like, the Hall of Fame. People like Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington. Also, like, I think they probably do venues, too. Famous jazz places that you can associate with jazz music. Places like the men's department at TJ Maxx and CVS. Sorry, I just always associate jazz with shopping for something. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Here we are at Columbus Circle. If you like the video, I don't know, please just like it. Give it a thumbs up. It takes 2 seconds. Subscribe, it takes 2 seconds. And also check out the Patreon, it's a huge help. I thought I'd do a quick short video here. I already covered Upper West Side. We'll cover Central Park West here one day very soon. Here at Columbus Circle, you have a lot of cool stuff here, huh? The southwest corner, and then you can just pop into the park and enjoy yourself. Stewie, did I forget anything? What do you think? I appreciate it. I appreciate you thinking and tasking yourself with that, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we're pretty much done. Not much else to really talk about. It's a quick video, quick little intro. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna head out of here and go into the park and listen to some music or something and get in the shade, baby, because the sun's coming out and I'm wearing pants. I made the big mistake of wearing pants. Why'd I do that? I don't know. All right, well, I'm rambling, per usual. See y'all later. Sick.